Recording has commenced.
All right, good morning, everyone. This meeting of the Agricultural Labor Relations Board is being called to order. Please note that all meeting participants and members of the public will need to select the language they prefer to listen to the meeting in. Please look at the bottom of your screen up towards the right and select the interpretation button. Please click on that and you can select either English or Spanish. Even if you can hear me now, in order to have the best audio quality throughout the meeting, you will need to select your preferred language to ensure you're able to hear the audio for the duration of the meeting. And thank you to Marielle, our interpreter, for joining us and providing interpretation services for us today. Next, I will turn to the roll. Board Member Broad. We will come back to Board Member Broad. Board Member Flores.
Present.
Thank you. Board Member Hall.
Present.
Board Member Lightstone.
Present.
Wonderful. Okay. Also present from our staff today's meeting are our Executive Secretary, Mr. Santiago Avila Gomez, and Assistant to the Chair, Ed Haas, who are providing technical support during the meeting. As we all know, we are continuing to live through the COVID pandemic and are taking all necessary steps to ensure both the health and safety of our staff as well as the public. Thus, in accordance with Executive Order N2920, today's meeting is being held via video conference with an option for members of the public to dial in. We'll first have the business portion of the meeting, and at the close of the business portion, we will then turn to public comment. Members of the public can comment on any portion of the meeting, and members of the public who have contacted us either by email or phone and asked to be placed in the public comment queue will be called upon first. If you did not previously contact the board and wish to make a public comment at the end of the meeting, you may do so in one of several ways. You can either make a request in the Zoom chat function, or you can raise your hand, also a Zoom feature, or email Santiago Avila Gomez to be placed in the queue for public comment. Please note that we ask that you use the chat feature only to indicate that you wish to make comments. Substantive comments in the chat will not be made part of the public record. We ask that you also provide your name and organization if applicable. This information will become a part of the official record of today's proceedings. If you wish to speak more than once, please alert staff and have your name placed back in the queue if you are able. If you are having technical difficulties and are called up for comment, please reach out to us via the Zoom chat function or email, and we will come back to you. We have limited capabilities for managing participation during the meeting.
Sorry to interrupt, Victoria. The interpreter has asked for us to slow down a bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will back up a little bit. We have limited capabilities.
Yes, we can.
We have limited capabilities for managing participation during the meeting and during the public comment periods. So we're asking everyone who is not speaking to place their phones or Zoom on mute and wait to unmute until you're called to speak. You can also see these instructions on our agenda, which is available on our website at alrb.ca.gov and is also located on the ALRB homepage under News and Information. And I'd like to back up. Board Member Broad, are you present?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, we'll now proceed to our first agenda item, which is approval of the meeting minutes from the public meeting on April 13th, 2021. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I believe I heard Board Member Flores first on second. Thank you. And may I have a vote for all of those in favor? Say aye.
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 Thank you. Minutes are approved. We'll now move on to the next agenda item, which is the chair's report. I'm pleased to say that as the pandemic has started to ease and as California has been so successful with its vaccine distribution and other public health and safety measures, we've been able as a board and as a staff to start to engage in ways that we engaged pre-pandemic 2020 and meet with staff and stakeholders and farm workers in person. One of my early goals upon starting with the board was to visit each and every office. I'm pleased to say that I've been able to visit 3 of our field offices, and I will have another visit planned next week for Salinas. Since being here, I've been able to visit Visalia, as well as Oxnard most recently, and we'll be going to Salinas next week. On May 10th and 11th, board member Broad and I had the opportunity to participate in a field visit down to Oxnard, where we joined the Labor Commissioner, Cal OSHA, and several community-based organizations in promoting Governor Newsom's renewal of supplemental paid sick leave 2021 for employees that work for employers with 25 or more employees. Most critically, this new form of paid sick leave applies to farm workers who work for employers with 25 or more employees. They can use up to 80 hours of sick leave to provide care for themselves or care for their family member or quarantine, as well as use that time to get vaccinated and treat any vaccine-related illness that may result. So we are thrilled to participate in this public awareness event and engage in outreach. We engaged in a public outreach caravan, providing information to farm workers out in the fields in the Oxnard area. We also had the opportunity to meet with several groups and as well as tour some local ag operations. Specifically, we had the opportunity to meet with CAUSE, and I want to share my thanks with the executive director, Maricela Morales, who so generously took time to meet with us and explain the work that she is doing out in the fields, her and her organization, and how they have pivoted to help address the needs of farm workers during this pandemic. We also had the opportunity to meet with the entire staff of the Ventura County Farm Worker Resources Program. And I think it's fair to say we were very impressed with that program and really believe it serves as a model for possibly other counties in terms of how to best address the needs of farm workers, not just from a labor perspective, but all kinds of social services. And they've really engaged in some remarkable work, and we just had such a tremendous experience meeting their staff. And I want to share my sincere thanks with Talia Barrera and her team for running such a wonderful program and taking the time to meet with our staff, including myself and board member Broad. It was very informational and left us with many ideas for how we can improve our services going forward, and also partner with other local government entities as well as community-based organizations. We were also very grateful to have an opportunity to tour a local farm, Mars Farms, which is owned and operated by Odilio and Renato Martinez. Mars Farms grows raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries. And we really enjoyed learning more about their operation and also getting a chance to hear about some of the challenges employers are facing and learn how we can better work with employers to ensure we're providing the best services possible to all of our stakeholders, and hearing about some of the challenges that they're dealing with, particularly during this pandemic. Going forward, I'll be going to Santa Maria this Friday to observe a notice reading for 225 workers at Rancho Laguna Farms. The notice will be read to workers in Spanish and Mixteco at 3 separate locations. This reading is the result of an informal bilateral settlement between workers who filed the charge with the ALRB in Rancho Laguna. I'm also excited, as I mentioned, to be joining our general counsel and board member Broad and visiting our Salinas area and our Salinas office. We'll be touring with several local agricultural operations and also meeting with some local groups there as well. I'm very much looking forward to that. And still hoping to make it down to our Indio office, hopefully sometime soon, and meet our wonderful staff there. Turning to matters closer to home, I'm very pleased to share that the Office of the Executive Secretary is now completely staffed. We welcomed our newest team member on Tuesday, June 1st, Devaka Gunawardena. Devaka, I don't know if you want to say hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much. We are thrilled to have you join us. Mr. Gunawardena will serve as an Associate Government Program Analyst, commonly known as an AGPA, to the board. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Devaka at the ALRB. Lastly, I'm pleased to share that the ALRB is beginning to embark on a new strategic planning process. ALRB's last strategic plan was in 2008. As you can imagine, a lot has changed since then. Engaging in a strategic planning process was one of my primary goals that I shared in my first meeting with the board, as well as in my Senate confirmation. It's been a priority for me, as I think it's, in general, the sign of a healthy organization, an organization that takes its mission seriously, that focuses on its priorities, and really focuses on meeting its goals and objectives. And I'm very excited that last week we had our first planning meeting with the executive team. We're going to be rolling this out to our entire staff, hopefully in the next month or so, and also be engaging external stakeholders throughout this process. I'm absolutely thrilled to be at the ALRB, and we have so many staff that are committed and passionate public servants. And one of the things that was really critical for our entire executive team was having a process where we would be able to engage all of our staff and learn from them and really harness all of that collaborative power that I know is out there, and improve the way that we run as an organization, help fulfill our mission, and as well as improve the service that we provide to the public. So I'm absolutely thrilled to start this process. We are hoping it continues to help us improve ourselves as an organization, ensure that we're a first-rate, well-run state organization, and also an employer of choice for those that wish to enter a career of public service. We'll also be engaging our external stakeholders, unions, employers, farm workers, community-based organizations, and others to hear how we can improve our services to them and how we communicate with the public. And this will eventually be resulting in a report that we will share publicly with everyone to clearly state our goals, ensure it's clear who we are, what we do, and how we're working to improve each and every day. So I'm absolutely thrilled to start this process and get this going this summer. And with that, that concludes the chair's report. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. It's the executive officer's report on elections, unfair labor practice complaints, and hearings. Mr. Santiago Villagomez, please share your report.
Good morning, Chair Hasid, members of the board. Since the board's last meeting on April 13th, we've had some election activity, one notice of intent to take access, two notices of intent to organize, one petition for certification that was just filed yesterday, and no petitions for decertification. Amongst the filings, I failed to mention on April 12th, and this is the day prior to our last public meeting, there had been a notice of intent to take access filed. That case number is 2021 NA001-VIS. Case name is Tikkun Olam, California, relating back to the same election activity as Tikkun Olam Adelanto, and that is NA 2021 NA002 VIS. Was filed by Teamsters Local 1932 in the cannabis industry. That was filed on June 3rd. The notices of intent to organize, relating back to the first notice of intent to take access, was on April 15th. And that also was filed by Tikkun Olam Adelanto, LLC, and that case number is 2021 NO001 VIS, followed by case number 2021 NO002 VIS. And finally, the petition for certification that was filed yesterday, 2021 RC001 VIS. Again, that is in the cannabis industry and was filed by Teamsters Local 1932. There were, relating to complaint activity, the ULP complaints, 4 complaints were filed, 2 complaints were settled, and 3 complaints were withdrawn. The first of the complaints filed of Braden Farms, that's case number 2020 CE018 VIS. That's in Madera County. involving almonds. Second, Benjamin Wrights and Stephen Wrights doing business as Wrights Ranches, and that's case number 2018 CE 002 VIS involving grapes. Third, Sun Pacific Farming Cooperative, case number 2020 CE 010 VIS. They have various crops and they are in the Tulare and Fresno counties. And finally, Mark Bentonsoli, case numbers 2019 CE 12 VIS and 2020 CE 005 VIS involving grazing grapes in Fresno, California. The two matters settled were Pacific Reserve Nursery, case number 2019 CE 009 SAL. The parties entered into an informal bilateral settlement agreement on April 20th, 2021. Second matter was San Jack Management LLC. That parties there also entered into a formal bilateral settlement agreement, and that was also on April 20th, 2021. The case numbers are 2018 CE 010 VIS and 2018 CE 019 VIS. The two matters withdrawn, or the two complaints withdrawn, are Chipala Berry Farms on April 26, 2021. The case number is 2018 CE 049 SAL. VBF Brands, Inc. and Ocean Grown Horticulture, that's case numbers 2018 CE 066 SAL. That was drawn on April 30th, 2021. And finally, at Chandy Farms, case number 2019 CE 012 SAL, May 28th, 2021. There were no hearings held, and there have been no administrative law judge decisions or board decisions, administrative orders, and currently there are no matters pending before the board for action. This report, along with our other reports that are delivered today, are available on our website. There will be an amended report that will be uploaded very soon. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Santiago. Appreciate that. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Okay, thank you. Next is agenda item number 5, the litigation report. Mr. Todd Ratchin, can you provide the report?
Yes, thank you. I submitted a report to the board that is available on the website. Not a lot of litigation activity since the last meeting. We are still awaiting issuance of the Supreme Court's opinion in the Cedar Point Nursery versus Hasid matter, which should issue before the end of the month. The court noted, adds a calendar update to its website throughout the week, noting what days it will be issuing opinions. And at this time, Thursday is marked as an opinion issuance day. That's the only future issuance day currently marked on the calendar. And so just waiting on the opinion in that matter. But that's it for the litigation report right now.
Thank you, Todd. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Okay, wonderful. Next is item number 6, the General Counsel's report from General Counsel Julie Montgomery. Julie?
Good morning, Chair Hasid, board members, and everyone who's here. Nice to see you all. So as usual, I'm going to give an overview of some of the work of the General Counsel's Office of the ALRB. And I'm going to start with introducing, or somebody who's known to you, but I'm going to introduce Francesca Herrera as our new Deputy General Counsel for the ALRB. So I want to welcome Francesca in that capacity. I think most people here know that Francesca has been working with us at the ALRB for more than 6 years, 6 to 7 years, as a regional director and before that an attorney in the Salinas office. And so now she is assuming a statewide role where she's working directly with me, as well as with all of the program staff statewide. So she's going from a regional role to a statewide role. So I'm really thrilled to have Francesca with us in this new capacity. But as a result of that change, we have a vacant regional director position in the Salinas region. So that is posted on our website. We are currently interviewing candidates for that. So please direct any interested applicants to our website or the CalHR website to apply for that. And that position, we are willing to base it in either Salinas or Oxnard, which are two of our offices in that region. We also have positions posted for three different attorney positions. We have one in Salinas, one in Oxnard, and one in Visalia. And so we are accepting applications for those positions as well. So we appreciate any help anyone can provide in just spreading the word and getting it out there so that we have a good applicant pool for those positions. And I just think it's an exciting opportunity for an attorney or anyone to work for the ALRB. So we want to make sure that people can avail themselves of that opportunity. I next am going to talk about some of our outreach activities. We've been pretty busy, as I've announced in previous meetings. We have 3 outreach staff members who are dedicated full-time to coordinating and conducting outreach for the ALRB together with our regional office staff. Our regional office staff has always taken an active role in outreach, but the difference now is that we don't have to put outreach on the back burner when we have an election arise or case deadlines and the like. So now we have our dedicated staff, and we've been a lot busier and out there a lot more in the community, which is fantastic. Our staff has attended approximately 12 in-person events since our last meeting, and that's been in the Central Valley, Ventura County, and Monterey County areas. And they've distributed over 2,600 of the COVID-19 guides for farm workers and our ALRB wallet cards to participants of those events. And those have included some community resource fairs, food distributions, an employment fair, and a vaccination clinic. We have also distributed a lot of our ALRB pamphlets with information about who we are, what we do, and workers' rights to nearly 3,000, or we've distributed nearly 3,000 pamphlets to a number of different community-based organizations throughout the state. We have conducted a live Spanish language interview on Radio Indígena in Oxnard. And that was together with Mixteco Indígena Organizing Project in Ventura County. And we've also conducted 2 Facebook Live events in Spanish. And one of those was also simultaneously interpreted, or sequentially interpreted actually, into Mixteco. That was together with some nonprofit organizations, the UFW Foundation and Radio Indígena out of Oxnard. So we have an online presence now, and those presentations actually are available on those Facebook pages if anyone wants to check them out. We have conducted a number of training presentations also to different nonprofit worker groups and county program staff. And this is part of our outreach efforts as well, not just to direct stakeholders, but also to organizations who are serving farm workers in particular, so that they know who we are, what we do, and how to coordinate with us, how we can help. So that will facilitate worker referrals to us, and also just talking about collaborating more on outreach and other efforts to strengthen the services to farm workers. And we did 7 of those trainings this past 2 months. And we did some trainings to an organization in Oxnard that's a worker advocacy organization called Central Coast United for a Sustainable Economy, or CAUSE. We also did a presentation for a worker group that CAUSE convened in Santa Maria. We conducted a presentation for the statewide COVID-19 worker outreach program, which is a network funded by the state of approximately, I think it's like 200 different nonprofit organizations who are engaged in advocacy for workers, including farm workers. And so we conducted a presentation for their staff so they would know who we are and how to work with us, as well as a few other local farm worker resource programs. So we're hoping that this outreach will over time increase our presence and result in a lot more utilization of the ALRB as a resource. So we are out there and we want to help. We've also entered into some settlements in the past couple of months. A couple of them were mentioned by our executive secretary, which were settlements of pending complaints. And then we also have some informal bilateral settlements that were achieved pre-complaint. So I'll just highlight a few of those. We have a settlement of a case involving a charge against respondents Ojai Farms and Gourmet Specialties, Inc., where a Salinas worker who is harvesting herbs and vegetables filed a charge against her employer that alleging her foreman and supervisor threatened, coerced, and intimidated her and several coworkers after they voiced concerns about the foreman and supervisor's treatment of the crew and the foreman's prohibition that workers were not allowed to speak Purepecha at work. And so the employer agreed to an informal settlement agreement with the ALRB not to interfere with workers' rights and not to retaliate against them for exercising their rights. And the employer also agreed to the standard remedies of noticing, posting, and mailing. And our ALRB staff will be conducting a reading of our notice during their peak season together with Purepecha interpreters. We also achieved a settlement in the Oxnard area against Santa Rosa Berry Farms, and that involved a charge alleging that Santa Rosa Berry Farms retaliated against a worker when it terminated her employment because she spoke up about working conditions, which included dull knives and poor treatment of her crew. We investigated, filed a complaint, finding cause of violation was committed, and the employer agreed to make the charging party and some other workers whole for economic losses in the amount of $8,876, and also to the standard reading remedies of reading, noticing, and posting. We also achieved a settlement involving Pacific Reserve Nursery LLC for a charge that was filed by a cannabis worker in Salinas, alleging that Pacific Reserve retaliated against her and some of her coworkers when it fired and or selected them for layoff because they complained about working conditions and mistreatment by the company forepersons. We investigated, filed a complaint after finding cause that a violation was committed, and we entered into a settlement agreement with the employer and parties in which the employer agreed to respect employees' rights and make workers whole for economic losses totaling $49,000, and also the standard remedies of reading, noticing, and posting. We also achieved a settlement against Sanjack Management LLC, and this was a pre-complaint settlement involving two cannabis workers in Riverside County who alleged they were fired in retaliation for attempting to organize workers for collective bargaining at the workplace. And that settlement agreement involved payment to the workers for lost wages in the amount of $66,932, as well as standard remedies of noticing, posting, and mailing. And finally, we achieved a settlement, another pre-complaint settlement involving Gallo Vineyards, where a grape worker in Stanislaus County alleged that Gallo failed to recall her to work in retaliation for voicing complaints about coworkers' inappropriate conduct. And she made that complaint on behalf of herself and others. And the charging party was offered reinstatement, and the respondent agreed to back pay for the worker for $2,000, which were her lost wages, as well as the standard remedies of noticing, posting, and mailing. So this is just some of the settlements that we've achieved in the last couple months. So that concludes my report. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Julie. Appreciate that. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? and just want to commend you on all your hard work, both all the settlements that your staff have been working so hard on and all of the wonderful outreach events. It's been really fun to see how creative the new team has been, especially during this time, and just really love hearing those reports. So thank you for that continued good work. Next is agenda item number 7, the Division of Administrative Services report with our Chief of Administration, Brian Dougherty. Brian.
Good morning. As far as the update for the Administrative Services Division, we are in the midst in our fiscal area of beginning to do our year-end close as we prepare to end the fiscal year at June 30th, which means we're closely reviewing all encumbrances and POs that are outstanding to project what the final year-end expenditures are going to be and ensure that we can accrue the correct dollar amount in our financial statements that will be completed in early to mid-July. Currently, given we have historically had really high vacancy rates, it's a lot tighter of a budget this year. So we're just ensuring that we're going to close the books within our budgeted appropriation. As far as additional updates that have occurred since the last board meeting, the CalHR did announce at the end of April that it was operating to all state departments at its discretion, the state employee leave buyback program. ALRB chose to participate in that, given that the previous leave buyback programs were suspended last year due to the budget shortfalls as concerns with the COVID pandemic and projected lower revenue. I'm pleased to announce we had 18 employees that chose to participate in the leave buyback from ALRB at a cost of about $70,000. So ultimately that means that there's less leave on the books, and ultimately we have less exposure for lump sum payments as employees separate from ALRB. In addition to the year-end work that is going on as well, as I mentioned previously at the last board meeting on the IT front, we had the Department of Military come out at the end of April to do an assessment of our IT practices and security policies to ensure that we are in compliance with all the state information management memo requirements and security best practices. The Department of Military was on site doing penetration testing, both internally and externally, to see if they could notice any vulnerabilities or problems with our security systems for our IT network. I'm pleased to announce, based on their initial review, there were no major findings that were identified. They weren't able to penetrate our network from outside our system. So we're currently underway awaiting a final report from the Department of Military, which they indicated can take 6 to 8 weeks for them to produce with any additional actions that will be required and to put together a corrective action plan to implement. So I anticipate we will have that report probably sometime by early July. And I'll be able to share at that point any additional findings with the board. And with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions people may have about the Administrative Services Division.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you for your and your team's work and your ongoing stewardship of our organization and making sure we're in the black. Always appreciate that, and complying with everything. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Okay, thank you so much. Our next agenda item is item number 8, the regulations report with Todd. Todd, do you have anything to share?
Sorry for that. No updates on the regulations at this time.
Okay, great. And Todd, you are still up for on the our next agenda item number 9, the legislative report. Can you please share that report?
Yes, we've been monitoring Assembly Bill number 616. And this bill was, since the last public meeting, this bill was referred to the Senate and referred to the Senate Committee on Labor, Public Employment, and Retirement, where it was heard yesterday and passed on a 4-1 vote to be re-referred to the Senate Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 10. It is the personnel report. There are no items to report at this time. So next we'll move on to agenda item number 11, the public comment. Please be advised that the board is unable to adjudicate, comment, or resolve any pending case matters before the board. I will ask our executive secretary, Santiago Avila Gomez, to go first through the queue and then open it up for public comment. If you have technical difficulties or miss your turn, we will work to come back to you. Please remember to be on mute unless you are speaking. If you require a translation, please advise us. Interpreter, can you share that last portion, please? We'll give you a moment.
Yeah, she just completed the
Okay.
simultaneous translation, Chair Hasid, and at this time there are no pending members of the public indicating a wish to comment.
Okay, all right. Well, with that, we'll close the public comment queue and move on to our next agenda item, which is number 12, announcements. As Chief Board Counsel Todd Ratchin stated, we do not have a date certain on when the Cedar Point decision will be issued by the Supreme Court, but we do anticipate it sometime between now and the 1st of July. Additionally, the next public board meeting is scheduled for August 10th. And as a reminder, we also have the regional directors meeting today at 2 p.m. And you can find that information on our website under the meeting agenda. That will be a separate Zoom link at 2 p.m. Thank you so much for everyone your time. And with that, we are now adjourned.